All right, for more on what happened last night, let's welcome in the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, former Deputy Principal Press Secretary at the White House, Hogan Gidley, and St. Louis radio host Christopher Arps. It is great to have you all on this very busy Thursday morning. Hogan, you were in the White House under Donald Trump. Part of the job of the Commander-in-Chief is to get it right. And this was just not a great start. Hopefully not a metaphor for the entirety of the campaign. What surprises me, though, is Ron DeSantis went to Harvard and Yale. He's a brilliant guy, and he was seated directly next to the richest guy on the planet. Nobody saw this as a possibility, that maybe a lot of people would crowd Twitter Spaces and it might get overwhelmed. I see you shaking your head. This was a big deal last night. It upset me. You don't want to upset voters. I was trying to get on, and I felt like I was trying to, when you're checking in, you're flying somewhere and you check in and it keeps looping you back to the start. That's what this felt like last night. For like 45 minutes, I missed the actual announcement. I couldn't get into the room. Hogan, take us through what you saw.
Well, look, I'm pretty sure that they knew there could be a problem. They just probably told Ron DeSantis they'd be able to handle it. I mean, that's part of trying to burgeon some new territory here and do something different. I know people are going to pan this announcement. I know some people are going to praise the announcement. The fact is, the announcement doesn't matter but for another couple of hours, and then the real fight starts. It's, can you build the ground game at the local level? It's, can you get enough money to last through the entire primaries? Can you take down Donald Trump, who's crushing you by 40 points? These are the real questions that matter. And I know people are focused on the announcement because that just happened. Everyone has their day. Ron DeSantis chose to do it a little differently. He got burned by the technology. He lost some viewers, as you said. But in large measure, I hate to say it, this doesn't matter.
Okay.
What matters is, can you win Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina?
Betsy, you're the politician. You've been there before. It doesn't matter unless something goes wrong.
Well, that's right. But the fact is that the GOP deserves big congratulations today, because now the Republican Party really has a race. It was kind of a phantom primary before last night because the other candidates or would-be candidates aren't really registering with the public or in the polls. But Ron DeSantis is. So now the Republicans have real choices, and that's to their credit compared with the other party, the Democratic Party, that's going along with Sleepy Joe and only has this kind of quack medicine man, this Kennedy guy, in the picture. So the Republicans have a lot to be proud of. And as for DeSantis, he has a tremendous ground army already assembled. He has a highly funded campaign already underway. Now, look, he lacks the one thing Donald Trump has in spades, which is an enormous track record of success. So we have two extremely viable, attractive candidates, and the Democrats, sorry.
Yeah, Betsy, great points. And I will say with DeSantis, things he's got going for him as he starts his campaign in earnest today. He's 44 years old. He's got a beautiful family. His wife is going to be a tremendous asset. He has got a lot of Donald Trump's policies. Many of these candidates do, but none of the baggage. Take that town hall, for example, a couple of weeks ago that Trump did. If DeSantis did the same town hall, half those questions couldn't be asked, short of the Ukraine questions. Chris, that brings me to the problem DeSantis and these other candidates are running into. They need to win over some of the Trump base, which in large part watches Newsmax, by the way, but they can't alienate the base by going after Trump. But if you don't directly go after Trump, what's the point in running in the first place?
Yeah, that's been the knock on Ron DeSantis' campaign, that a lot of folks think that he's trying to be Donald Trump light. And instead of being Donald Trump light, you'd rather just go ahead with the guy who is Donald Trump. Regarding the press conference yesterday, Rob, my radio show happened during that press conference, Ron DeSantis. We played it live. It was an absolutely disaster. As you said, we heard cursing went over on the air during his announcement. What really seems strange to me about this, with a guy who has a knock on him of being not very personable and bad at retail politics, right, that you would think that he would have an announcement where he's in Florida or in Iowa with a big crowd behind him. Afterwards, you see him on the rope line, doing the retail politics things. I think this was just a mistake. But one good positive thing about this yesterday, the campaign is announcing that Ron DeSantis raised $1 million the first hour after the announcement.
Yeah. Can I just let me just make this point? One of the things I think was really problematic too was they kind of build this as an open conversation, watch this kind of organic thing happen. I think Elon Musk in the chat in the stream where I was even said none of this is scripted. And then DeSantis gets on and reads a scripted set of comments, clearly contrived, and then he opens up for questions to people who have either endorsed him, donated to him, or already support him. And they were big names. They weren't common folks. It's not wrong to do it that way, but you build it as something that was going to be more organic, that wasn't going to be scripted, and then you turned around and gave everyone a scripted production. And by the way, every announcement, I've done a billion of these,
right.
They should all be scripted. You don't want problems,
right.
which is why the Twitter thing was an issue, but don't bill it as being organic and then make it all scripted.
Hogan,
that was a weird thing too.
I'm gonna convince you, and this kept me up last night, partially because I go to bed. I go to bed so darn early that 6 p.m. Eastern. I was all geared up, ready to listen to this, and then it just really peed me off that I couldn't get into the Twitter space. And then by the time I got in, it was like an hour later, and I'm all fired up. My wife's like, "You need to read or something before you go." It upset me, and that's not a good start for any campaign. This was a mistake. You know how I know this was a mistake? Because if DeSantis could have a mulligan on his announcement, I'm sure he would just do, conventional on a stage somewhere, maybe his hometown outside Tampa, Florida, with applauding people there in the crowd. This was a mistake, and I guarantee you that we don't see other candidates do this same thing again. Betsy, I'll give you the final thought, about 20 seconds.
It was a mistake, but it was innovative. It carved out or excluded the mainstream media, and I give them kudos for that. But the real congratulations today, as I said, belongs to the Republicans, because we're offering people a real choice of viable, successful candidates, and all the Democrats have is Sleepy Joe.
Yep. You know what I love about this morning that we didn't have yesterday morning? We've got a race now. Now we've got a real race. We've got a ton of sound to play for you and a ton of stuff to show you as we make our way through the program this morning. But off to a good start. It just frustrated me last night as this all played out. Hogan, Chris, Betsy, thank you. Yeah, we'll pick this up in just a little bit. Let's